welcome to the Healing for the Heart podcast, people just like us. We are really glad that you have been able to join us today. Today I've got Vikki with me. Vikki is one of our staff members here, and Vikki works in community development. So some of you watching or listening to this will have already encountered Vikki out and about in local communities, doing the stuff that she loves to do. We obviously talk lots here about mental health and about well-being, and Vikki and I were having a chat just the other week about some stuff that she was talking about, some stuff that's been going on with her, and we decided that it actually might be really helpful for some of you who are watching and listening to just hear about a very practical way that somebody's working with the stuff that we're actually teaching. At Healing for the Heart here, we really do believe that we have to live the stuff. So we don't just say it, we don't just give it as good advice, but we actually try really hard to live it ourselves. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. I'm really grateful to Vikki for being willing to do this, because actually it's a really vulnerable place to put yourself. So I'm really grateful to Vikki for being willing to share. And I hope, and we hope, that somebody out there hearing Vikki's story and what's going on with her, or what's been going on with her, that it'll actually give you confidence and courage to keep pushing through, to do the things that you know that are really good for you. So, Vikki, why don't you tell us a wee bit about what's been going on with you?
So, thanks for having me, first of all. It's lovely to be here. And I think you're saying about being vulnerable, but the first thing I really want to say is that I've really learned the strength in vulnerability. So I find that that one of the biggest things that I've learned is an ability to practice humility and not have to wear a mask and just tell people the truth. People respond to that, do you know? They really do. It enables me to gain support. And it gives other people the opportunity to support me as well. And always I find that honesty breeds honesty. So that's why I'm quite happy to speak about where I've been quite recently. Do you know, I just took a mental health dip. That's the truth. I just took a mental health dip. It very much started with a death in my family. So it was a really fond auntie of mine who I had a lot of childhood memories with, who is one of these aunties that wasn't blood related, but it was my mum's best friend all the way from primary school. So she had been in my life and my mum's life for 70 something years. And it was just a shock. Do you know, it was a shock. It was cancer. It was sudden. It was very sad. So what happened was I watched my mum in grief, and I went and we went to the funeral together. And I actually saw my mum's frailty that day. My mum's 79, and she was obviously really conscious of her mortality. So I was looking at her frailty, I was looking at her fear, and I believe really what happened was I began to project into the future about losing my mum, who's alive and well, and that's really what triggered me, you know, and it really did trigger me. And I'll talk about that. So I think I started to taste a tiny little bit of the grief that I know I will feel when my beloved mum passes, but I really think I started to feed it unknowingly. Do you know, I didn't mean to do that. I had been probably leading up to that quite busy with a beautiful life that I've built up. You know, and I'm in recovery, and I'm 4 years in recovery, and I really have put together a wonderful life. But it is real, and I do spin a lot of plates. And quite suddenly, when I was in this emotionally broken, fearful feeling place, the stuff that I love and that I've taken on suddenly all just looked like chores, responsibility, stress, anxiety. And I think the scariest thing for me now that I'm coming out, you know, slowly, is looking back and realising the perspective shift that I had.
But you felt quite unwell during that as well. Physically, you felt quite unwell too. You were really tired.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm a great believer. You know, we know at Healing for the Heart, we work with holistic well-being, that we're mind, body and spirit as human beings. And I think I have probably not been sleeping properly. Do you know, with the fast head and the over-analysis, I've not been sleeping that great. Probably been sitting up watching nonsense too late at night as well, and then my eating's probably been a little bit different, you know, because that is one of the quite destructive behaviours that I can use to self-soothe. That is one of the things that I'll go to. So probably not eating as healthy, and probably just not caring for myself as well. But absolutely the stuff that I've learned, especially in the resiliency model, I believe I've got stuck in that low zone. I really just wanted to shut the world out and stay in my bed, you know, and as I say, I've built up this beautiful life. I wasn't able to do that. So I was trying to push myself, you know, to live up to my own expectations, which are horrifically high at times like that. You know, that perfectionist voice was really, really quite loud, and quite painful. You know, that critical, you're not doing anything properly, you're letting everybody down, you're failing at your work, you're failing as a mother, you're failing as a daughter. All of that horrific inner dialogue was going on.
And of course, a big spiral,
a big spiral, and of course I started to trail my feet. I believe a lot of that's to do with the resiliency zone stuff. I was out my resiliency zone and locked into low zone. So that's no energy, negative thinking, not wanting to face the world, and really fearful, anxious and fearful, which for those of you that know me, you know, and a lot of people do know me, that's out of character for me. That's not who I am at all when I'm in a good place. So yeah, it was horrible.
And there was some, we talked about this as well, there was some bouncing around in that as well, wasn't there? Because we talked about a meeting that we'd both been in where I'd said something and you're just like, right, you know, you were right up into the high zone then, well, let's just have this out here kind of thing. Yeah,
so, you know, I'm more than happy to speak about that. Really, really lucky where we work, really blessed in that. I believe I was hypersensitive, really quite emotionally raw, and we went into a support and supervision meeting, and Shona gave me the option. She could see that I'd been crying, physically she could see, and I had been crying, and she said, Vikki, you look like you could do with going home. And that inner perfectionist said, no, you're out the loop, you need to stay, you know, like break yourself to try and do the right thing. And there's unhealed stuff going on there, the part of me that tries to justify my existence, the low self-worth in me that feels like you're doing me a favour, giving me a job, even though that is not the truth, you know, starting to believe that stuff. So we spoke about this the other day. So Shona said, you know, to do with the department I work in, I'm going to be brutally honest. And the word brutal literally put the hairs up on the back of my neck. So I'm hypersensitive, I'm feeling like I'm justifying my existence, and that word brutal put me into fight or flight. Absolutely high zone stuff, and I won't repeat what came out of my mouth, but it wasn't language conducive with a support and supervision with the CEO of your organisation.
But also, so I'm in the midst of that meeting and I don't know any of this. So I'm just really confused now. I don't know what's going on here. And that's what happens with this stuff, isn't it? When we get locked in that low zone or locked in the high zone, not only does it impact us, it actually can then impact other people round about us.
And I think there's almost some kind of unhealed wee part that's going, just notice me, just notice how much I'm struggling, but I'm doing it in a destructive way. Do you know, there's almost that going on as well. Maybe negative attention's better than no attention. Maybe if I cause it, somebody will notice how much pain I'm in, do you know? But that's definitely unhealed stuff. And that is the stuff that I've got the absolute privilege to be working on with a Healing for the Heart counsellor, do you know, because I work here. I have access to that stuff. And the self-awareness that I've got is you know, that is absolutely down to what I've learned here and the work that I've done on myself. Otherwise I would just not recognise different parts of me. I wouldn't recognise my own resiliency zone, when I'm high, when I'm low. I just wouldn't know any of that stuff, you know, and I'd be stumbling around my life causing real trouble for myself.
So you did recognise that, but that wasn't like it wasn't immediate. So it wasn't as soon as you started to feel that you necessarily recognised it, because you talked already about those coping mechanisms that you tried. So you talked about eating, and other coping mechanisms that are there for you that are perhaps not healthy. And it's not till you get in the midst of those or the thoughts get in the midst of those that you start to think, oh well, wait a minute here, there's got to be another way to do this.
And of course, I'm speaking with hindsight now. Do you
That's
know?
right.
Of course, I've had 3 or 4 weeks to come back to myself on self-care.
I think that's really important to say though, and like so that folks hear that.
Yep.
So often when we talk about stuff, I've talked to people before about how we have a public vulnerability. So often those of us who do any kind of public speaking will talk about stuff that sounds quite vulnerable, but in actual fact we've dealt with it years ago, we're well through it, we've sorted it out, and it sounds vulnerable, but it doesn't feel hugely vulnerable because in actual fact we've sorted it all out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably really important to say that we're not talking about something that happened to you like 3 years ago.
No, this is now.
This is like
this
in the
is
last
now.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Is that, and that's where the vulnerability comes in the midst of that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I can feel myself beginning to come out of it, but I'm still well aware that's been a really, really tricky time. And you know, I'm dead open about what those unhealthy coping strategies can be for me. I have suffered eating disorder in my life, and that stuff I was really, really battling that. It came a lot closer. I'm an addict in recovery. Do you know, I'm 4 years clean from addiction, from heroin addiction, and that stuff starts to come closer and look like that maybe wouldn't be such a big deal. Do you know, that would maybe be quite an attractive option. I just need to change the way that I feel and the way that I'm thinking. But like I say, having the self-awareness, you know, having enough about me to be able to say, whoa, this is actually a really bad place. This is not just anxiety and stress. This is some kind of emotional break, do you know?
But it's almost like sitting then, so it's like the red pill or the blue pill or the matrix thing or the green pill, whatever colour the pill was.
I don't take pills, Shona.
I know, but the man in the Matrix did. And that whole idea of which path do you go on, if you like, then. So you're sitting with choices. So I can choose these things, and in actual fact, you know, using whatever or alcohol or anything else will do it. We'll actually medicate some of those difficult feelings short term. Or you can choose to do something else. So you're sitting with 2 sets of choices, and obviously in that moment, the choice that you made was, you know, I'm not going to scupper this because in actual fact, 4 years is a long time. You know, to be clean, I'm not going to give it all up just for this, and so you choose something else. But I think also, it's not just the choice you make; it's the people that are around about you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and the people were my saving grace. Really, do you know, my friends, my fellowship, my staff members, my colleagues here, because actually I do have healthy coping strategies in my life, but none of them were working. You know, I'm big on meditation. I'm big on my creative writing that I do here. I'm big on reading literature that I love. I'm big on quite a lot of things that I did not have the attention span for. I couldn't even, you know, there was a few nights where I chose a really nice film that I fancied on Netflix and I couldn't sit with myself. So my people were my saving grace. And I was saying to you earlier, even though some of the things I loved weren't working, there was a real feeling of empowerment in having tools at my disposal. So there was a real feeling of proactivity, is the word I want to use. I'm not just going to lie down to this. I am not just going to fall between the cracks here. I'm going to work the stuff. What I'm trying to say was I wasn't getting instant relief from things, but I still knew that if I kept doing the right stuff and not the wrong stuff, not the destructive stuff, that there would be a breakthrough, and that's kind of the way it's gone. The resiliency tools, I really, really, really feel that resiliency model's changed my own life. But I like the grounding tool that we've learned. It's 3.5 minutes. It's really, really powerful. I was getting relief for the 3.5 minutes. As soon as I was putting the tool down and my shoulders were just going back up again. Do you know, my muscles were contracting again. My head was going fast again. So some things were giving me relief for a short time, and some things I just couldn't do. I felt a bit like a goldfish, the attention span of a goldfish. I couldn't do stuff. So my people.
But I'm guessing though, as you did those things, so like it might be 3 minutes relief you got for the first couple of days, but then after you started doing that often, maybe you got 5 minutes relief, and then maybe you got half an hour's relief, so it gradually builds up. It's almost like your nervous system learns, that's what it's like to be calm, and it's okay to be calm again. I think what you're saying though about the people around about you is really, really important important as well. I guess we'd want folks to hear that as well, that the people and the positive influences that you have in your life that are round about you that are saying, no, we believe in you, you can do this, you totally can do this. What is it you need? What do you need from us? What do you need from your work? What do you need in order to help you move through this? And actually you've done that, you've moved through it. I know that it's not all perfect, because it's not all perfect for any of us. We're all works in progress, but actually you have moved through it tremendously.
Yeah, I have. That's a handful of people in my life, a good handful of people, as I say, in varying places, who I do not have to wear any masks with. Do you know, these are the people that I trust and that I let see me. You know, and that was a big thing. That was a big thing in early recovery, to actually let people see me. But I do have 10 or 12 people like that in my life, as I say, you know, between work and other places, other fellowships and families, and my church family as well, who I have let in, and they can spot a change in my behaviour, do you know, because I am usually quite an outgoing, bubbly, gregarious kind of person, and I'm dead resilient usually. And I think when I start being fearful, moaning about things, doing things grudgingly that I normally love, people straight away are like, Vicki's not herself, do you know? And see, when that's consistently for days. I mean, you said to me in that support and supervision, Vikki, you can go home, and that was my stuff, that I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to admit defeat. I didn't want to look like a failure, because that's the stuff my head was telling me at the time. So there's learning in it as well, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know, I haven't navigated it perfectly. I've made some mistakes. I've got some very graceful people around me that care for me, that allow me to make mistakes. And so why is it that any kind of poor mental health, or being in a poor place with your mental health, why is it that we don't allow ourselves to make mistakes? Because actually the expectations on me were my own. Do you know, they were my own, they weren't anybody else's. So there's a big learning curve in that for me as well.
It's also that thing of it being okay not to be okay.
Definitely.
So if I'm guessing, like, if there's folk watching this that are finding themselves in a place that you find yourself in, where they're stuck in the low zone, or they're stuck in the high zone, or they're thinking about using strategies that are not the best, they're not the safest, not the best for themselves, in order to medicate some of the emotions that are there, what would you say to them? What have you got? Anything that you would want to leave them with as far as this podcast is concerned?
I think it's got to be humility. Like, that's the key word that I'm going to use, humility, because in that I was able eventually to tell people, to show people, sometimes not in healthy ways, but I was still able to show people where I was at. And you know, yesterday I sat with a friend and opened the pile of mail, which was like this, from the last 3 or 4 weeks, because I've not been opening my mail. Always a danger sign for me. Now listen, as a 50-year-old woman, that can feel a bit strange, having to have support to actually go through my mail. But I need to get past that. Do you know, I need to practice humility and say to a close friend, I haven't been opening my mail and I'm scared to open it now. Do you know? There's bills in there, there's NHS appointments in there, there's TV licence in there, there's all sorts of stuff in there, and I've got fear to open it. Do you know? And see, just to sit with a friend, and we made it into a fun. Do you know, it was fun because we were just throwing things away. Don't worry about that, but this is a to-do, and she helped me make a to-do list. So that was dead proactive, but it took a bit of humility, do you know, and so did saying sorry at work when you've used language you're not meant to, and you know, so I think vulnerability, humility, that's the two words I want to use. That's what's helped me get through.
And I suppose I hear in that encouragement to other folks, if they're watching this and they are struggling, to reach out for support, to reach out for help. You know, Healing for the Heart's not a crisis service, but there are other really good services out there. We'll put the link to those in the wee blurb at the bottom of wherever you're watching this. We'll put the link on for the Samaritans or for Breathing Space or whatever. And if you're struggling, then please do reach out. These organisations are incredibly skilled in terms of crisis, of responding to crisis. if you're not in crisis, but actually you're thinking, you know, some of this stuff resounds with me, I really want to look at it, and you're thinking, what on earth are these resiliency skills? Then get in touch with us, and we'll put you, we'll get you into the right group in the right place, and point you to the right direction in the community, where you'll find Vikki or Donna, who are teaching some of this within community settings. If actually you want one-to-one work because you recognise there's some stuff there, like Vicki's already said about accessing counselling. If you're looking for counselling or you're looking for inner healing, then do get in touch with us, and again we'll put you in touch with the right place in the organisation. We do have waiting lists for most of these things, but in actual fact it's the first step that you take towards your own well-being. It's about your journey. Your journey is unique, and in actual fact your journey is leading to somewhere that perhaps nobody else is going, because in actual fact it's your unique path for yourself. That's really what Vikki has been talking about this afternoon. It's about not apologising for who you are, but actually being able to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm struggling with, and actually I need a bit of help at the moment. And
and this is where I'm at.
Yeah, totally.
So sometimes this is not who I am, but it's where I'm at. Do you know, I think that's quite important as well.
I think you're absolutely right there, because we can blend the two, can't we? That just because I'm in this place just now, this defines who I am, but it doesn't, because there's much more to you than the struggle with this, that, or the next thing. You know, that's just the thing that's happening at the time. Do you want to have the last word?
I really believe that we're all travellers, you know, travellers through life, and there are different seasons, and there is different terrain. So I actually think that's really important, that where I'm at doesn't define who I am, and that having the people around about me that know who I am, do you know, my spirit, my soul, my heart, my mind, people that really know me intimately can see a spot of change in my behaviour, you know. That's my fellow travellers, and that's really, really important.
It's brilliant, and actually for me as a fellow traveller in this, then we are cheering you on. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable in the midst of this and so honest in it. We are just going to leave it there, because there really is nothing else to be said. Thank you for watching or for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you again on the next episode.